We are live. Hello and welcome to episode number 2 of our 3-part mini-series exploring hidden causes of pain and exhaustion. I'm your host, Dr. Alan Chong, the spine coach, with your co-host, Elaine Cooper. Hi, Elaine.
Hi, Alan. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Your Better Living coach and 2 special guests, of course, which we'll introduce in just a few moments. So, Elaine, today our premise again for this whole mini-series is...
Well, if you're ignoring the warning signs of failing health and you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner, you can't really afford to be sick. So, healthy person, healthy life and business. If you get sick, your business may not be doing so well either.
Especially for small business owners and entrepreneurs, right? Because
you're usually a solopreneur.
Exactly. So in many cases, we are our business. I know, but that's been the case for a lot of years for me and still is in many cases. And our 2 guests today, Crystal Bertolacci and Joe Pei, are great examples of that, and we'll introduce them again in just a few minutes. But on this week's show, our theme is entrepreneurs risk pain and exhaustion for success. Wow, pain and exhaustion for success. How often have you worked late getting something done there, Elaine?
Okay, I'm not
Never, right?
I'm not going to count, because when I work late, I don't get up in the morning quite so early. So that's the joy of being an entrepreneur. And yeah, you're working maybe 10, 11, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, just because it's nice and quiet, there's no phones ringing, and you just want to get things done, right?
Exactly. Well, some people like me have a regular job as well, so when I work late, it's like I got to be up for 6:30 and get going again. So that's not too much fun. So often entrepreneurs are ignoring the warning lights of failing health. And you think, failing health? Wow, really? Well, there's some real stories that we're going to hear tonight. Entrepreneurs and small business owners will often risk their careers when health problems get in their way. So, thank you for watching. What we're going to be talking about is, are you ignoring the warning lights of failing health, as Elaine talked about? And especially if you're an entrepreneur and a small business owner, this show is definitely for you. You are your business. We're going to talk about that. Can you afford to be sick? Or worse, be diagnosed with a serious or potentially career or life-threatening condition? Our special guests, Crystal Bertolacci and Joe Pei, have been through it all, these very experiences, and we look forward to hearing their stories. Elaine, do you want to introduce Crystal there?
I sure do. Well, Crystal calls herself comfy, and I can attest to that one. And she's sought out globally as a spirit-guided intuitive. And as a life coach, she talks to angels. She teaches us how to communicate with our own team. And it's really important to have your team, whether spiritually or virtually. And she teaches us how to be our own psychic. People naturally gravitate to her, and on our first meeting, it was like goosebumps were running up and down both arms, and it was real easy. You can see that her smile is just beautiful. Now, you can find Crystal at www.comfysoul.com, and she's also a radio personality. And Crystal, we really appreciate the fact that you just got off of your own show. It's called Guided Souls, and it's at www.blogtalkradio.com/Guided Souls. Welcome, Crystal.
Thank you so much for having me here. I totally attached to you, so thank you so much for sharing that awesome intro, and for letting other people know that our energy connected, and I plan on connecting with others here tonight. Hopefully the message comes across on how important it is to take care of yourself, because, man, I tell you.
I look forward to that story. Now, Joe Pay was the CEO and co-founder of two seven-figure companies in the real estate and mortgage industry. He was the #1 ranked sales professional out of thousands for the largest privately held lender in the U.S. Joe spent over a decade training coaches and consultants. He doesn't look that old, does he? And consultants how to market and sell premium level products and services. He's an artist and a musician at heart. He has a passion for painting, sculpting, and playing guitar. When he's not busy helping people build their empires, he can be reached at www.joepay.com. Welcome, Mr. Joe Pay.
Hello, how are you? Good to be here.
Awesome. Great to have you two on the show today. You know, how important is it to live healthy in your business?
How healthy is it to live in your
How
life?
How important is health?
Is health. You know, as we age, it becomes more and more apparent all the time. So things that clearly are not like I was when I was 24. So all the things I've learned from you have really definitely helped in a big way with overall with my health and my outlook, especially with my business. So.
Yeah, and we're going to get into details about that soon as you tell us more about your story. But what about you, Crystal? Is that healthy person, healthy life and business thing?
You know, it's really incredible how much more important it became as I started doing a business. It was a big deal previously, but the energy required to stay in a place of feeling good, being able to talk to people, feeling that I was doing the right thing, having the energy to have the conversations, it became so important to be able to stay alert, have a regular schedule, sleep correctly. And these are things you don't do when your body isn't feeling right. And it's so important to keeping just your regular life going, much less a business.
Right. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your story, what you went through?
I had fairly recently, upon you guys contacting me to talk about this, was smack dab in the middle of a health crisis. And it was something that I had paid a lot of attention to previously, and getting really comfortable with working late hours and driving myself nuts really had me forget how quickly your health can decline. And I actually found myself in the middle of severe adrenal fatigue and stress, and it affected my cholesterol levels. It affected my liver function in so many incredible ways that my doctor was like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I started my own business."
Right. So, Crystal, can you tell the audience a little bit how it led up to that, because it was probably pretty insidious, was it?
Oh yes, yeah. It creeps on you way faster than you would imagine. And it starts with sitting in front of the computer for hours on end, not getting up enough to stretch your eyeballs and your butt to get your hips moving.
Your eyeballs and your butt. I like that.
Yeah, just to, the little things, the things you know you're supposed to do. Get up every 20 minutes. Really start to slow down all the functions in your body. You don't have the same flow. Your skeletal system doesn't sit the same way. You're pretty much frozen in that same state. I wasn't eating correctly anymore, and I eat healthy, I eat organic, but here I found myself snacking on a lot of carbs and quickie things that would have never entered my life previously. And it really affected weight gain. It affected my stress. My ability to cope with stress was the biggest thing. Things that didn't used to bother me so much became very bothersome, and it just kept the cycle going and going. So really, spending too many hours not taking a break and taking care of myself, and it doesn't require a whole lot, just not spending enough time paying attention to my body and what it was telling me, went downhill very quickly.
So over the course of what period of time did you start noticing decline? Because what I notice in practice is that most people aren't aware it's health is failing. Right, Crystal? Like over
Absolutely.
what period of time for you?
I would say that it pretty much started probably about 6 months ago, but the severity of it didn't really kick in to where I was knocked down energetically that I had to pay attention to it about 3 months ago. And by that point, it was everything I could do to baby myself to get back up and be what I used to be. So the things that I knew I needed to do, like get up and do my full yoga routine and exercise and meditate, now were things that I had to take back and say, okay, I'm not going to do my full cardio routine with the yoga. I'm gonna just stretch because that's all my body can handle right now, and it takes a lot longer to come back from that.
Right. Joe, tell us your story. You went through something different, but over the course of how long?
How much time do we have? Let's see. Well, I mean, I think everybody can relate to pain, discomfort, right? The things you're talking about, fatigue, exhaustion, and everything that we've been talking about that you've helped me with. And so my story is I come from corporate. I used to be in an environment where everybody ran around, suits and ties, sitting at their desk for 12 hours sometimes, very competitive environment. So, and that was before there was really even computers in the workplace. And
You're kidding.
Yeah, right before, and so there was no RSI because we didn't type. We wrote everything with paper and pad or pen and pad. But still, we put our bodies through a huge stress by just sitting all the time and not ever having the education or the understanding that that can wreak havoc on your body, right?
So you think that's quite prevalent?
Is it prevalent? Oh, yeah. I think any entrepreneur who's watching this, any small business owner, experiences the exact same thing. You are at your computer a lot. We live in the digital age, right? And it's fascinating because when I discovered the internet, I just went down the rabbit hole of the internet like we all have, I'm sure. And I was so fascinated. I would spend just endless hours researching and learning and experiencing and taking on new, just new things and that applied to growing a business, which all involved, of course, sitting in front of the computer all day long. And of course, over time, serious things started happening. Wrist problems, forearm pain, neck pain, back pain. And the funny thing is, my family, we're in the restaurant. My family's, we're in the restaurant business. So
right.
I'm no stranger to the inside of a restaurant and working a long shift, standing on your feet. And the people in the restaurant, they complain that their feet hurt. And they're like, oh, you're so lucky. You get to sit down all day long. And I'm like, yeah, let me just tell you about the lower back issues and the neck, the knots and whatnot. Right. And through just some simple concepts and practices and habits of what you're talking about, Crystal, just stretching and breathing and yoga and meditation and just calming your nerves has so alleviated literally where I was in excruciating acute pain to a place where it was I would say probably about 85 to 90% gone. Right? There's still maybe a little semblance of it there, but getting to that place where you feel just great again, So.
Right. Through lifestyles. We're not going to talk so much about solutions yet. Well, I want to get to that, Joe.
Okay.
But you've got a great story in the sense of that, if you're willing to share that about something that might be, potentially been career ending, right? I mean, health is that significant, is it not?
Are you talking about like the whole liver thing?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean that is definitely diet related. And I hope you got time for this, but
just briefly, Joe.
Okay, so I'll just give you the quick, the short version, which is not realizing how important diet could, and how it could impact your health, and just like you, Crystal, reaching out for what was convenient. Now, I've always been a really health conscious person, exercise, eat right, but I experienced acute liver failure, and I was shocked. People were shocked, but my liver essentially shut down, and I had to really take on a whole new education, which was essentially a blessing in disguise, because I feel like if I had never gotten ill, I would have never gone down that road to actually learning what really makes the body tick the right way, right?
Right.
So
what did that at the time when that happens? It's a crisis, right?
the crisis, yeah.
When it's a crisis, and not everybody has a crisis such as that. Some people have worse crises. What was crossing your mind for your life and your business and your empire building?
What? How did it? Well, it pretty much was. I was thinking about. I mean, I was thinking about. I was in a. That was a pretty dark place. I'll be honest with you. It was career ending. Period. It was about not being able to function like a normal person again. So think about how that affects every aspect of your life, not just your career, right? But career-wise, certainly it's a detriment. Yeah.
To say the least.
To say the least. Yeah.
Yeah. Crystal, you had a similar point, didn't you?
I did. I had.
Tell us about that.
I had because I communicate with angels and receive signs, and that's how I usually hear from them. And I'm also very intuitive, where I just know. I have a psychic medium partner that I work with on soulmatefinderkit.com, and he's a very clear channel for angels. So it was about a week before I had gone to a doctor appointment where Spirit came through and told him that they use the term adrenal cortex. Now, he's not a doctor and he's not super scientific, so he didn't know what that meant, but I did. And I said, oh man,
Wow.
I'm in trouble. And it was a week later, I went to the doctor, my test results came back, and she said, your liver is suffering and you have adrenal fatigue. We got to get you fixed stat. And so what Joe just said about the liver really hit home with me, and actually my ear started buzzing, which is one of the ways that Spirit comes through and talks. It started ringing my ear, which was saying, pay attention to what Joe just said, because you're on that path, and if you don't stay healthy, you're headed for the same thing. So I'm definitely listening, and I hope everybody else watching is also.
Absolutely. I mean, that we didn't know that there was such a link to our guests today.
The liver,
your livers.
The liver. That's pretty important for your health, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a tad.
Just a reminder for those. Last week's show was amazing. Where just to diverge just a tiny bit. Last week, if you have a chance to watch, please watch last week's show. And how you access is that through the spinecoach.com. Click on the show and go to the past shows, and you'll be able to find that link and watch it. It becomes a YouTube at that point in time, and it is amazing where GI specialist Dr. Christian Turbide talked about how toxicity actually doesn't occur right away, but the GI system and what we put in and the stress in our lives and all affects the GI system, which is the 70% of the immune system is right behind our bowels, and then that goes to the liver, and then the liver gets toxified. It starts shutting down in the extreme cases and sends toxins to the brain. So basically your whole body is shutting down. In the worst case scenario, it becomes serious illness and death for some. I mean, it's serious stuff. And yeah. Sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
I mean, that resonates. That rings true for me, because when you're diagnosed with something, with a chronic liver concern, you are thinking those thoughts like, well, I mean, how bad can this be? And it can be
Really bad.
Yeah, really bad. So when the doctor told me that, kind of the rug was pulled out from under my feet and just really kind of sideswiped me. So yes.
And Joe, tell us, did you have any clues that this was happening before? You're busy. I know you work some long hours at times sitting in front of your computer and helping people. You're doing it for the right reasons. You're a great coach, business coach, strategist. And, it kind of came up quickly, didn't it?
It happened just literally overnight. And so it is a function of diet. And I'm actually really fascinated with the last week's show because it's all about internal health. And I realized, and what I've learned through just reading and self-directed education was you can rebuild the human body. You can literally, it's very, resilient. And if you have the right fundamental building blocks in place, which is proper diet, drink lots of water, move your body, all those things that we talked about and embrace, right? So
posture alignment, yeah.
Posture alignment, exactly. Making sure you're not neglecting yourself throughout the workday,
Exactly. So that's amazing. So when you come to that crisis, Crystal, I want to hone in a little bit more on that. Like, did you have sort of a things flashing, your career's flashing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit more about what that actually felt like as an experience, like to find out some things or to feel things. Were you exhausted, or like what was happening?
I noticed that I wasn't handling stress the way that I normally would have. I'm pretty jovial and I'm pretty easygoing where I laugh things off, but it seemed like everything was a tragedy. It was all of a sudden I was like some reality show diva and everything was crazy. And I had so much fatigue, and I noticed I was needing to sleep more, but I couldn't. I didn't have the biorhythm in place to stay asleep and have it be, helpful to my body. And then I had an issue of continuously being thirsty and also trying to figure out why I had so much muscle pain. And I thought, well, maybe it's just because I've been sitting too long, and you kind of write it off, but really your muscles suffer from the toxicity. And it was just, I had so many clues until I finally was wiped out. I just had to stay asleep, and because I couldn't do anything else. So I literally had to take some days off, which was detrimental to someone who owns their own business. To take some days off is unheard of. So,
what's the cost of that, right?
Oh, unbelievable. You can't put a price on that. When you're running and things are moving and you've got that mojo going and there's some energy there, and then all of a sudden you have to stop, how do you explain to everybody where you went? How do you, conduct your business? How do you ship product? How do you return phone calls? You can't. Everything stops.
Mm-hmm.
Been there, did that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
Joe.
It's so funny that Elaine and Crystal and I have all personally, having talked to you, Elaine, and hearing your story too, just how we've all had that connected experience. That's a little unexpected, but okay, cool.
I really appreciate you, Joe, because you said, well, you didn't know at that time, when you were, well, let's say just last year maybe. No, it's when you were 24. You said you didn't have the knowledge. And yeah. I was doing the same thing. I'm in my mid-30s. I'm an entrepreneur, keeping a business running, a family at home, and you're pushing just to do what you have to do. And the things that you want to do, you just have to go by the wayside because there's just not the energy to do it. And you look great, and you're doing all this stuff, and it's like, okay. My own story was sitting down and not being able to get up. Just absolute and total, okay.
Wow.
And thankfully I had great support with family around and took my 3 children overnight, so I actually got to sleep one whole night.
Wow, one whole night of good sleep.
One whole night of good sleep. But you know what? I was enough to light that fire again, reignite it, and carry on. Was I healed? No. I just was doing what I needed to do because that's what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any of the education. I really resonated with you when you said that. I didn't know what was going on. I just figured, oh, well, it's my thyroid. Oh, well, it's whatever. That was in the family. And how do you deal with those things? If I had known then what I know now, it would have been a different story. But I'm actually feel blessed because of it, like you said.
Yes. You actually feel blessed because it seems negative at the time, but afterwards you realized it helped you. It took you to a place that you wouldn't have ever gone to otherwise.
That's right.
So, yeah.
And we're sitting here face to face, and
Yes.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I would definitely say blessed is the word, and particularly because I was warned by Spirit beforehand, hey, you better watch what you're eating and drinking. So it's definitely a blessing because you're not going to just give up your business. You're going to keep going. So for you to keep putting your body through that is huge, and to have that clue right from the beginning was probably the best gift I could have ever gotten, to stay balanced and keep my business going and know when to say, hey, it's time to sit down and watch a movie and have a antioxidant smoothie.
Yeah. Good
I don't
idea.
want to get sidetracked here, but if you could monetize the bad habits that people have, and this just came when you were talking, Crystal, you know the naughty jar for swearing? What if they had one of those on your desk where every time you practice a bad habit, you have to drop $1 in that jar?
That would be great.
Is a symbol for the money you're losing when you're not taking care of yourself, you know?
Yes.
I think that's called investing in yourself, Joe.
But people don't tend to invest in themselves. They're busy. They're looking after everybody else. They're looking after, in the scheme of things, we feel like we're looking after ourselves, or we feel like, okay, we're doing what we need to do. When it comes right down to the crux of it, we're not really looking after ourselves in the way to keep our energy flowing. And like you did, Joe, and Crystal, thank goodness that you have the knowledge from your background to say, okay. So it's about not getting to that point. And I'm still doing that today, and I'm a grandma.
Well, absolutely. And what I observe is in the clinic, I see people still very much so, human nature or whatever, going crisis to crisis. I mean, my challenge is, of course, and Elaine's, yours challenge is to educate people to a better way of doing things, to be more preventive, to have programs in place, to invest a little bit. Like you said, Joe, imagine $1 or $2 for every time you're grabbing stuff that you really shouldn't be grabbing to eat or drink or whatever. By the end of the year, you've saved up a fair amount of money to look after yourself. That's what I'm suggesting, is to invest in yourself.
You know what? If you play the game, you play the game of I spent X amount on veggies this week, and look how much I saved on meat. You could actually do it, the little game, people who quit smoking cigarettes and save their cigarette money to go on vacation.
Right.
Except now you have a liver, and you could probably go on vacation with the money you didn't spend on meat.
Well, we'll gamify this chat. We'll turn
I think we should get into gamifying it and monetize, right?
You know what? I just made a note going, I've got to put this as part of one of my programs. Like, it's got to be slotted in there. Joe, we have
I get a dime for every $1.
There you go.
These entrepreneurs.
Joe, the business strategist.
Love it.
So great topics. I mean, the reality is that a lot of people, including us who have had experiences and know better, still will push ourselves, right? I think it's kind of the way we do things as business owners and entrepreneurs. We just got to get things done. And thank you so much for sharing so candidly how that really could have been more devastating even, right?
Oh, yeah.
But when you wake up to it and share with others, that's so powerful of a message. Yeah, like, when we talk about exhaustion, that is a common theme, that something is wrong. And what I see is that doctors and various practitioners are not necessarily picking up on what's going on. Joe, you have a great example of that too, right?
Well, just can you?
Just in the sense that, you know, you have to listen to your intuition. I think you told me that, and
Sure.
you're going to choose a different way to deal with it than, you know, and that's a personal choice. This is not advice, but you chose other than specifically a medical route. There's different options, right? I mean, they're great at diagnosis.
Oh yeah. Okay. You don't even get me started because
No,
conventional. I'm sorry. All the conventional medicine and the way people in America or around the world eat today, and the things they're doing to themselves. And this education isn't in school. They're not. They don't talk about, you know, making sure you have enough antioxidants and greens, and making sure to, you know, take care of the inner health. That's not. I don't recall going to that class ever. Ever. And so over time, of course, it takes a toll on your body. People know that, but they do it anyways until the problems hit them smack in the face. And then you're at the edge of the cliff, looking in the precipice, thinking, "Oh God, okay. Well, now I'm looking for the solution because it's happening now." So it's a classic case of, you know, people looking for the answer to this problem, but only when that problem is smack dab right in front of them. And so I was totally blind to it, and then discovered this whole new school of or way of you know, taking care of yourself in terms of all the herbs that can do incredible things inside your body, the green drinks that I drink that have an amazing, you know, just have an amazing effect on everything internally, externally for your body. And the protocols that I went through to get myself from thinking I could die to feeling 100% was pretty, you know, it wasn't a simple process.
No, it was a steep learning curve, wasn't it, for you?
The learning curve, but you know, they say if you're interested in things when they're relevant to you, and none of that was relevant to me before because I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll just eat whatever. I mean, I still ate pretty healthy, but sure, you work a long day, and sometimes you grab what's convenient. But yeah, now I know better. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So,
and good thing there's people like Elaine and me to help you along the way to simplify it, right?
Yeah, and what Crystal's saying about adrenal fatigue and knowing that, hey, ashwagandha helps with that. Didn't know that. You know, so there's a lot of solutions people don't know about that can be really simple, including a lot of things you've shared with me. So.
Yeah. So Crystal, on the other side, coming from just a few weeks ago, you said I mean, you're still recovering, if you will. Like, I mean, health is, I believe, is a continuum. It's not like all of a sudden you're this and you're perfect and you're invincible again. What have you learned?
I'm putting my Wonder Woman bracelets back on. It's almost time to get back out there. It's been a journey, let me tell you. If it wasn't for this little episode right here, I'd be napping right now. I'm still recovering from what happened and what's going on.
Wow.
But I have noticed a huge shift in being able to pay attention to what my body was going through and putting back into place a normal routine of preventative measures. I think one of the greatest things that I ever used to do for myself was go to the chiropractor regularly. That was I had no idea that so many people had never gone. And when I told them about how I felt after I had gone there, they were so amazed. And I said, well, you don't have to be broken to go. Just go and feel it. And they were totally different people. I mean, you walk out feeling taller. If that doesn't say 2 million things, I don't know what does. But it was
And I don't know what height you are there, Crystal,
yeah.
but every bit counts, right?
It does. It does. It really does. And then, you know what? The biggest telltale is when you're driving in the car and you're sitting here and you have to look over your shoulder and you're like, you know, you could hurt somebody not being able to turn around like that. And people get lazy, and this is how accidents happen. Where if you just take a little bit of effort, do a little bit of prevention, you know, make a new friend with your chiropractor, you have a much better time and you feel a lot better.
Of course, you know I'm a practicing chiropractor. So
I do, but I'm just saying, it's time for me to go back.
Exactly.
I just want to say something here while we're having a little chat about chiropractors.
Sure.
I literally would not have the health I have today if it hadn't been for starting into chiropractic, and it was because of a crisis. And that, let's see, my eldest just turned 40, is turning 40 this week. That was 38 years ago that I started into chiropractic after having an almost 9-pound baby, her sister. And over the years, if I had not continued to go in for preventative, and of course going in when you're acute, you're having a crisis, I would not have the health I have today. Absolutely amazing. So I'm in the same ballpark as you were.
Yes. When I started going, take my very first yoga class almost 20 years ago, the very first thing the yoga instructor said to me is, your age is determined by the flexibility of your spine. And I never forgot that because it's so true.
Amen, as Carrie Roldan would say.
Can we take a second to say hi to a few people?
Sure, you bet.
Rob Jacobson, Jeffrey Dodd, nice to see you on here. Kimberly, nice to have you here. Carrie Roldan.
Roxanne.
Have you back. Roxanne Davenport, see that you've come on as well. So we're really appreciative, and I hope that this show is giving you some direction. Now, we're talking a lot about the boo-boos, the things that hurt, the things that have torn us down. But I just wanted to say that our bodies have an amazing innate ability to heal. When I first heard that was in a chiropractor's office years ago. And I am proof positive, as I know you are, Joe, you are, Crystal. We do have the capacity to repair no matter what the age. And instead of waiting for the next crisis to happen, prevention is absolutely the best medicine.
Yes.
Could absolutely. And you know, as chiropractors, we historically have called that, and still call it, innate intelligence, the innate ability for the body to heal and recover. Same intelligence that made the body heals the body. And I can tell you that mainstream medicine does not seem to acknowledge that. So we need to embrace that ourselves and look at what we can do to do that.
Alan, just, you know, it's funny because I'll have conversations with Alan, and he'll say something, and it may just be very matter of fact to him, but a light bulb will go off. And he'll say, "Oh, did you know that?" You know, he said, "Well, make sure you don't keep staring at your computer screen all day long. Make sure you take short breaks and look away and focus on something at a distance. Do that periodically throughout the day." Or when you talk about degenerative spine health and how the trauma that can occur to your spine sitting incorrectly, and realizing that that's actually degenerative disc and then to the cartilage, and thinking, having gone through the experience that I've gone through, realizing what that could look like, you know, 20, 30, 40 years from now, if it's ignored, right? So I thank you, Alan, for, you know, sharing your wisdom and expertise. It definitely helped.
Absolutely, Joe. I agree completely. So,
people don't normally think of it in that terms. Everybody lives for the now, right now, right now, right now. And they don't really realize how long it takes their body to recoup and recover. I mean, you can look younger. You just got to get started.
Exactly. We've seen that in many people. I see when people are in chronic pain and they start recovering slowly but surely, they start looking and feeling younger. It's quite phenomenal to observe that. And you might, some days you look in the mirror when you're going through adrenal fatigue, you're not looking so great, right, Crystal?
Right.
I mean, I don't know that from seeing you in the mirror, but I'm just saying that is the case, right? Yeah, we've been monitoring you there, Crystal.
I got to get this camera covered up.
No, that's fine. Come into my green room. The green does wonders.
It's very healing, right?
So what would you guys have to say, you know, if you're to either, you know, do things over again, or if you were mentoring people in the audience, what would you have to say to them about when you're running a business and about health and doing something for their health along the way? We talked about prevention, but even that, what can we practically, what would you practically tell them? Listen to your body. What would you say?
Crystal?
But, sorry.
I would definitely say whatever symptom you're experiencing, no matter how small you think it is, it's not small. That's your body talking. And it doesn't matter how long you think you can write it off, it's going to catch up to you. If you're feeling something, something's happening. And the best thing you can do is to take care of it before it becomes an issue. Because once it's become an issue, you're already far down the line. So it's best to do preventative maintenance. And it's so costly. People think, oh, vitamins are expensive, and oh, it's expensive to go to the chiropractor. And oh, it's so much more costly to have your business not running, to end up in the hospital, to lose an organ. Just saying, you know, you can't put a price on that.
Right. Absolutely. Joe?
It's really simple. Just practice good habits throughout the day. It's the thing that I do throughout the day. Well, I have a little timer on my computer. You can just Google break timer. Okay, there's plenty of them for both your, you know, your Windows or Apple computer. And every 15 minutes it goes off to remind me to stand up. Well, I have a chin-up bar that I hang from like a monkey.
Okay.
To help, but it helps me stretch my spine.
Wow, awesome.
It feels great. And then as well as making, and I also do stretches throughout the day. And a lot, and Ellen, I want to thank you for that too, because a lot of that has come from you, and it has done wonders. It's amazing how your body can bounce back. So if you have like neck pain and, you know, burning shoulder tension, back pain, no stranger to that, right? Or wrist pain, forearm pain, there is a solution to all of that, and it's by practicing good habits and making sure you're not just strenuous or too focused without taking any breaks throughout the day. So
yeah,
it's easy to go down that rabbit hole.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Because you're an entrepreneur, you get so focused on the thing that you're doing, sometimes you forget that, hey, you got to just walk away for a second and come back, you know?
You know what else is a great break timer? Dogs. They will come up to you and vie for your attention, and you'll be like, oh, I got to finish this. I got to do that. Next time, pay attention to your dog.
You heard it here.
Because then you'll get up, you'll roll around.
You heard it here. Go out, get yourself a dog.
And another one is just get a mechanized dog timer.
Oh, or doorbell.
This conversation has just gone.
Yeah. So what would you guys say about productivity? Like, coming full circle now that you've experienced these things rather recently, actually, in the last several months or several months. Mm-hmm. How would you say that's actually affected your productivity? Crystal, you talked about it a bit. Joe, you talked about it a bit. What would you say to people and say, like, obviously we talked about prevention, but what would you say, like, just don't let it happen, get advice, get help before, get
Ladies
coached?
first. Crystal?
It's really simple. If you've ever sat down in front of your computer for hours on end trying to do something you thought would take you 20, 30 minutes, and you're just blankly staring, you've got a fog, your hand's frozen in mouse mode, it's probably time to quit, and probably a long time ago. You're far less productive if you don't get up and move for a minute. Why do you think places like Google have gyms and sleepy rooms where you can take naps? Because you're more productive that way. So it doesn't help you to run a marathon sitting in your chair. It's no good for anybody.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. Run a marathon in your chair.
Run a marathon in your chair. There's another product idea.
Now, I, as a Canuck, am going to comment on this because the two of you are sitting in sunny California. And it's like, okay, so what do you do when it's minus 3,000 and it's just too cold to go out? And I say minus 20, anything is minus 3,000, so, bear with me for a sec. What I like to do is in the morning, first thing is open my door, front door. Freezing cold, who cares?
Naked, right?
Naked.
I'm on a main drag. That would be the scariest thing. Crystal. No, I don't actually do that.
Only in California.
Only in California. I'm going to come and visit you guys. Then you'll be really scared. But just get wherever you are. Just step out into fresh air. Step out into nature. Get out of your four walls. Hang out the window if you have to. But just get outside and put your feet on the ground.
Oh yeah, I got another yes, I can relate because sitting in an office all day long, looking at your computer screen and not getting any fresh air, it takes a toll on you.
Yes. That's why I left corporate America, was to not have to stare at the forest on the screen and to actually open the door.
Yeah, and then Alan, your suggestion was, well, obviously you're sitting all day. Just think about it. You're not moving your body. You're just sitting there all day long. I'm standing right now. I have a stand-up desk, and it's awesome. Stand-up desk is because it's easy to move away from the desk because you're not sitting here all the time, and because I was sitting and my back was just excruciating pain. Like I'd wake up in the morning and I have to roll out of bed and my back was just killing me. Stand-up desk, 1 week, problem solved. Back pain gone. That one thing is one little solution is pretty amazing.
Yeah, just practical things with guidance. I mean, I do have to clarify, it worked great for you, Joe, and of course I gave you some coaching on that, but stand-up desks aren't for everyone either, so it's a balance, and so it's finding what works best for you in a really a customized type setting, depending on your circumstances, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a great point there, Joe and Crystal. Just lifestyle things is what we're talking about, right? And that's why I think, the popularity of people getting help and proactively contribute to that jar, right? When you realize you're doing stuff, that in itself is a great little practice that could actually help you and your business, right? In that sense, if we actually applied that. What did we end up calling it?
What?
The something game. Gamify it, yeah. Well, we're getting towards the end of the show now. Crystal, tell us any last words, and then be sure to tell the audience how they can reach you and connect with you.
Okay, so last words of wisdom. If you blanked out on everything else that happened here today, the next time you feel a symptom or you get that headache, and you want to pop a pill, think about what that might be doing to your liver. Maybe reach for an herb, a natural remedy, or actually, better yet, find the root cause of that problem is the best advice I could give you. Seek out a professional, go to someone who is going to listen to all of your body and what's going on, and not just a symptom, and treat that. This is something I've learned going to doctors, and also just from my own intuition and having the nudges that Spirit has given me. For instance, one time I had stinging nettle pop up in my mind on Google and various places for 2 or 3 days in a row. And I thought, I've never heard of this stuff before. I think it's that stingy stuff in the ground. And I looked it up, and it turned out that it was great for anemia. And I tend to be kind of anemic. And then I learned it's also great for bladder infections or UTIs. And the very next day, a coworker came up to me and said, I have the worst UTI. And I told her, sent her straight to the stinging nettle. Felt better right after lunch. So you got to pay attention to the nudges. So if you want to learn how to pay attention to your nudges, you can find me at comfysoul.com. And I teach people how to pay attention to those nudges and trust what they're receiving.
Awesome. Thank you, Crystal.
Sure thing.
What about you, Joe? Can you summarize and then tell us all how people can get a hold of you?
If you want to, the best way to get a hold of me is through my website. But just to tell you a little bit about what I do, I specialize in working with entrepreneurs, small business owners, coaches, something I'm really passionate about, having come from the corporate environment, and helping people set up the infrastructure and then strategize their branding to launches, and really getting their vision and bringing it to, giving shape to their vision and bringing it to life. And I think that's that audience of people that are passionate, like all of you guys, some of the most passionate people in the world, entrepreneurs, the people who are looking for more productivity, looking for smarter ways to get their businesses set up and running and functioning and profitable. That's what I really love doing. So if you'd like to learn more, go to www.joepay.com. It's right on the screen, I'm sure. And then, of course, make sure to listen to everything Dr. Alan Chong says, because he's a smart cookie. He paid me to say that, but I'm sorry.
We weren't going to go to commercial break yet there, Joe, but thank you very much. No, it's been
I'd like to note, if you contact either Joe or myself, we are back at the top of our game, so game on.
There you go. And that's what it takes. It takes teamwork and listening to your body and all that such stuff, right, Elaine?
That's right. From top of your head to the tip of your toes.
Yes, and opening the door and flashing the neighbors. Is that what it was? Was that the tip?
Good gracious, does this connect? No. No.
Well, that would certainly get the adrenaline going. So thank you very much, guests Joe Pay and Crystal Bertolacci. That was awesome, and I want to remind everybody that you can share this show, and please do. And after the live show, of course, this becomes a YouTube, and that's what's the great thing about a Google Hangout. So you can share this show, whether you watch it in replay or in Google, and it basically lives in YouTube. Now, the way to get that is, if you're watching this in YouTube and wanting to share it, is to go to thespinecoach.com, click on the show, or Elaine, I believe you're posting this mini-series as well at yourbetterlivingcoach.wordpress.com, I believe, right? Is it in your blog?
That's right.
Right. And next week, we want to tell you about what's happening next week. We bring back, for our final episode of this 3-part mini-series, we bring back Dr. Christian Turbide, who's a GI specialist. We had him on episode 1, which you can go to thespinecoach.com, click on the show link, and see the replay in that. He's going to be talking more about exposing hidden causes of pain and exhaustion, related to the GI system in the gut, and how that, I mentioned briefly in the show how 70% of the immune system resides just immediately the next layer behind the GI system, which directly feeds to the liver, which passes on with inflammatory chemicals and autoimmune problems affecting the brain. Even mentioned autism. We're going to cover a lot of interesting topics. Dementia, the predisposition to dementia being affected by GI and gut and what we eat and what we don't eat. So fascinating stuff about the microbes in our body and how to balance those. That's our final episode, which is of this mini-series, which is next week, Monday, at 6 p.m. Mountain, so that's 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern next week. So join us live next week to watch this very special wrap-up show. You can watch for our social media posts, of course, our Google Plus posts, Facebook, and emails about next week's show. So watch for that. So go to thespinecoach.com, or Elaine, your website again?
It's yourbetterlivingcoach.wordpress.com. And I'd just like to say that we have a bit of a surprise next week for everybody. No, I'm not going to say any more about it.
Okay, we have a surprise. That's awesome. So tune in next week. And until next week, I'm Dr. Alan Chong, the Spine Coach, and
I'm Elaine Cooper, your Better Living Coach.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guests. Have a good evening.
Bye.
And we'll see
so
you next week.
Thank you, Crystal. Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Joe.